All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Shashank Kalanthi. I'm a senior data analyst, and I do these live streams every Thursday to answer any questions you might have about the world of analytics. So let's get right into it. What questions do people have? Morning, rock, paper, Caesar, Rashant Gadara, Amir Hussain Kiani. Hello. Tanmay, hello. How are you? Good morning, everyone. Wow. So I'm back in the Pacific Coast. So getting up at 8 a.m. is a bit early for me. Usually I'm used to doing these, like the last couple of weeks, I've done them at like 10 and 11 a.m. because I've been on the Central and East Coasts. Okay, so let's see what we got. What questions do we have here? Thank you, Amir Hussein. What BI tool would you recommend to freshers? So it depends on what's most common in the market, the job market you're looking at. Tableau is what I got started off with, but honestly, depending on whatever is big in your job market, between Tableau and Power BI, which are the usual choices people look at, I would say it's based on whatever job you're going to be getting. So I pick between Tableau and Power BI. Tableau obviously also works on Macs, so it has that advantage to it. Chaitanya, great to hear. Amir Hussain Kiani, do you recommend learning other kinds of SQL after having learned Postgres SQL? Not too much, quite honestly. In my experience, in an interview, you can specify that you know a certain type of SQL. And as long as like Postgres and MySQL are kind of what are used in interviews the most because that's what CoderPad generally uses, I believe. And I usually just learn the SQL of whatever database the company happens to be using. So I don't go out of my way to learn other types of SQL. I will just learn them as I encounter databases. Otherwise, I mean, there are so many different versions of SQL there in that case. So I wouldn't personally recommend doing something like that. Laura. Okay, Laura Brighton. Hey, Shashank, I know you say LinkedIn is so important, but I'm not even on there or any social media. Any tips for starting one from scratch? Yes, okay, so I'm glad that you're starting on LinkedIn. In my opinion, it has helped me tremendously in my job search. The last couple of jobs I've gotten were basically because of LinkedIn, and it's how recruiters reach out to me. It's how I keep up with some industry news. There is a lot of junk content on LinkedIn as well. I'm assuming you don't have social media because of like the junk content on it. But I would say LinkedIn, there is enough of a benefit to it where it's great that you're starting one. If you wanted to start one from scratch, what would I recommend? So get a nice picture of yourself. That's very important. I think that it communicates professionalism and at least in the US, I recommend smiling in your picture. I've noticed in other parts of the world, people don't necessarily smile. That might just be a cultural thing, but in the US, I recommend smiling. If you have a blazer of any kind, wear that in your profile picture as well. That makes you look a little bit more professional. Or just put it in your own taste in it. You'll notice that my LinkedIn is the picture is a nice one, but it's not a professional one. Outside of that, I would take your resume and really flesh it out on LinkedIn. Be sure to add all of your companies and everything you've done at each of those companies, and then like write down everything, and then like strip down the stuff that's like not too important. From there, you know what? Let's go ahead. Maybe we can even take a look at my LinkedIn. Let's see. One thing that I did was at Nordstrom, I'm a senior data analyst, right? But I put data science and analytics, which is the department that I work in, which really it helped me snag a bunch of other data science opportunities that I wasn't getting earlier. Otherwise, people were just contacting me for analytics opportunities. So by putting in data science and analytics, which is the department I work for, and I do data science work, it helped me snag a bunch of other jobs. So that was helpful. Be sure to put in any licenses and certifications that you have. Outside of that, the summary, I would say, I start off with like the job I have, the place I'm at, and then some like a couple of sentences or like one sentence about what you do basically. Add what technologies you have, and then any notable accomplishments you have as well. I wouldn't put too much information into your summary. I think recruiters are more interested in the job experience anyways, and be sure to bullet point it out as well. Okay. Next question. Let's see what we have. Whoops. 1 second. Of course, Laura. Hopefully that was helpful. All right, let's see what we have next for questions. Pink Mark, how's the masterclass coming along? Very, very well. We started the cohort. Good stuff. Really excited to meet the students. Omega Raoul. Hello, Shashank. Weird technical question here. I have an assignment and it goes as follows. After I've made a ML model, I now need to create a rating scale by discretizing the predictions of it. How? Okay, I made a machine learning model. I need to create a rating scale by discretizing the predictions of it. How? Interesting. Could you give me a little bit more information on like what type of ML model is it? Is it like a classification, regression? What type of problem is it? Razi Kata. Yep, getting quite busy these days. That is very true. Hello, Gaurav Sinha. What are the packages that we need to master in Python for data analytics? Go ahead and check out my Python tutorial on my YouTube channel. I have a lot of information on that stuff over there. Rashant Godara, are you going to drop a video about web scraping and cleaning data? I have a couple of videos about it already. As far as like a full-size video, probably in the future. Yeah, I have to actually like make. I have a huge like backfill of videos that I need to be doing. So hopefully I will get on that as soon as possible. Chaitanya, what kind of Python projects do you need for your data analyst portfolio? I would say something with excuse me. Well, I didn't sleep that much last night. I would say something with a lot of visualizations is helpful. Also something that demonstrates the skills that you have. So if you have like Python skills, then that would be very useful. If you have SQL skills and you can find like something like DeepNote, which has a SQL editor inside it, you could also use that. Those are kind of what I would recommend. Okay, classification. So, a mega row. Weird technical question. I made an assignment and it goes as follows. I made a classification ML model. I now need to create a rating scale by discretizing the predictions of it. How? Interesting. Discretizing predictions classification. Improving classification performance with discretization of biomedical data sets. Oh, okay. Wait, so can you do something like one-hot encoding for that then? Would that be how you normally discretize your variables? Abdullah Barrow, data science versus software engineering, which do you think is more demanding in terms of keep learning beyond work hours? I would argue probably data science, because data science, you're still very much a scientist in that role, right? Like you have to be up on math. You have to be up on math and computing advances, and know like what are the newest machine learning algorithms. What are the like? Has anyone done anything interesting in the mathematical world? So I would argue that if you're asking what's harder to study for after work hours, data science, I think. Yeah. Wow, I am tired. Um, yeah, data science. Jason Eystone, welcome, welcome. Amir Hossein Kiani, thank you, thank you. Shashank Tripathi, working as a SAP SD software development consultant, and I want to move into data analysis field. Please help. So I have a video linked in the description below of my data science data analyst roadmap. Highly, highly, highly recommend that you check that out. It'll have all the information that you need. And then after that, you can try Scratch in the description below as well to practice whatever problems and whatever you've learned. Razi Kata, LinkedIn can be a bit useless, but has been very valuable in this particular field of work. Yeah, I mean, for me, the unfortunate thing is that there's a lot of just like motivational crap on it. Of like people being like, oh, this person did XYZ from, this person was -$1 billion in debt and now is a multi-millionaire. They did all this. I'm not really into that kind of stuff, honestly. I don't find it helpful at all. Like these random motivational stories of people doing stuff. And I mean, I don't find it helpful because it's not specific in any way. It's always like this person just worked hard. That's that's kind of how they go. And they're usually written pretty poorly too, which is weird. So yeah, I think, I mean, I would say maybe 60% of the content on LinkedIn is useless, but yeah, because it has that useful content, we got to stay on it, right? So peace and love. What's the best tool for data cleaning? Oh my god! Wow. I would say Alteryx is up there. I really like Alteryx for data cleaning. Python is a great tool as well, but I would say Alteryx is probably way up there. All right. Oh, this is a good question. Sumir Queen Cull. Hi, completed master's in plant biology, but realize it's not for me now. Learning on my own to do the transition. What should I focus more on the portfolio? So check out that data science and data analyst roadmap video I have linked in the description below. Beyond that, I would really hammer it. Like I would use data science and combine it with your biology masters. You are highly educated in this field, and I don't see a point in throwing that education away. And so I think combining the two is how you will show you will show the highest level of expertise that will get you a more advanced job in a firm than if you just show data science stuff. So find some project that will allow you to combine data science and biology. Oh, Amir Hossein Kiadi, do you recommend mass applications? If yes, should I attach generic cover letters or just send the applications? I don't recommend mass applications. I don't. They might work, but I recommend changing your resume for every job that you apply to. At the end of the day, yeah. I don't recommend mass applications. I haven't found them to be particularly effective, anyways. And yeah. That's probably the best way to put it. Ooh, Erica Hozeski. Okay. How valuable do you think a master's degree is in comparison to work experience? I'm currently fresh out of BS in mathematics, considering my options on how to build a strong background for data science. So, the way I see a master's degree, right? It helps out quite a bit, and so it kind of depends on what you want to do. If you want to do like really advanced data science, like really hardcore stuff like building recommendation engines and stuff for like Netflix and everything, then I think a master's degree almost becomes necessary at that point. Um, as far as becoming a data scientist in general and being a well-paid one, like obviously we're all looking to be well-paid. Um, I would say it's not necessarily necessary. You might benefit from 1 year of professional experience before going into a master's degree. That way, you know that you want to do what you're doing. Another thing that master's degrees are very beneficial for is if you live in the United States and you're on an H-1B visa or an OPT, people with master's degrees tend to get them more easily. So, yeah, people with availability tend to, people with master's degrees tend to get them more easily. So I would recommend it for those two situations, but I would probably say go try and get a year of experience if you can, and then go back. And I mean, you can even see if the company will pay for you at that point, save some money. So, Robin, hey Shashank, what do you think about Redshift for writing SQL queries? Is it good? I mean, it's a standard. Yeah, it's a standard SQL database because it's AWS, right? You'll probably end up using it at some point in time in your career, so no harm in learning it. Okay, what else? What else? Oh, Constantinos, welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see. Hello, Gaurav Sinha. Can you please outline the steps of data cleaning? I don't know if there's steps per se. Are there really steps? What I usually, I just look at yeah, are there, I guess the first step is probably to deal with null values and then aggregate your data as much as possible. Is anyone else aware of like steps for data cleaning? I didn't know that there were steps for it. Ake W, what is the probability of landing a job with an MS in data science? Completely depends on your, where you're working. There's a lot of factors that go into it, right? For example, in Asia, in general, in Asian countries, there's kind of an obsession with education, to where people need master's degrees to get halfway decent jobs, in a way that doesn't exist in the U.S. You can get a really good job with just a bachelor's degree in this country, and so I would say probability, I'm not too sure. A lot of it just depends on your connections and how well your resume is written. And I would say if you're not getting traction, no one's even calling you back, then you probably need to write your resume in a better way. So, of course, Erica, of course. Oh, Ishan, great to see you. Great to see you. Started deep learning last week, super excited towards learning it. That's awesome. Good stuff. Kadisha, welcome, welcome, welcome. How's it going? How's the journey to becoming a data scientist at Nordstrom going? Quite well, quite well. Thank you so much. I have your message. I'll respond to it ASAP. Sorry about that. I've just been completely swamped with stuff recently. But thank you so much. Anandu Venugopal, is econometrics a good data subject to stand out as a data analyst in India? So one thing I should say is I'm not from India, so I can't speak to the Indian market. That being said, econometrics is a great degree to get in the United States to become a data scientist. So, Weeb course, hello, hello, hello. Anandu Venugopal, is econometrics a good subject to stand? Oh, sorry, we already answered that one. Abitha Mohan, which data visualization tool should I learn as a beginner? In my opinion, Tableau. I'm a big Tableau fan. Konstantinos Volakakis, just started 3 weeks ago. My data/business analyst position as an asset management firm. So far, really only using Excel, and now we're going to add Power BI in our department. Nice. That's awesome. It's a good way to start, and then from there just scale up, learn more and more advanced tools. Jonathan O, how much more in salary should I be asking for in a data science position? Currently working as a data analyst, almost done with my master's. It depends on how much you're making right now. I would say it's not about how much more you should be asking about, but about how much you should be making. And assuming you're in the United States, what state you're living in, right? That has a huge effect on it as well. In Washington, for example, I would say a data scientist with a master's degree and work experience should be making in the mid to high 100s at least. So 150 above, 150 and above is what I would say. And that's just base pay. They should be making more, closer to 200 when everything's added up together. Ishan Dandakar, what's next for your YouTube channel and podcast/tutorials? The next week, I expect a couple of videos to be coming out. I've just been completely swamped recently, but now I have like a bit of a lull. And I plan on taking advantage of that for the, what do you call it, for video making, to make some videos. So I've basically dedicated all of today to just making videos. So I'll go ahead and get that done. All right, what do we see next? KR7, okay. There have been many online masters nowadays for data science at genuine universities. Any experience with any of these paid programs? How would you compare it versus Coursera, for example? So as long as you get a full master's degree at the end, my understanding is it's the exact same. Now, the funny thing is some colleges are charging the exact same amount for Zoom University, which is, that, I mean, again, colleges are, because they can, they're very much taking advantage of the fact that people will pay anything for a degree, and they can get a loan for any amount in the US. That being said, as long as you're getting a full, master's degree, I don't see the problem with it at all. I would see it the same as if someone went in person, quite honestly. Yes. So wait, did I answer the question? Okay. Yeah, I think I did. Okay, next question. Sharmila Parwani. Hello, how's it going? I'm currently pursuing a master's degree in data science. Besides doing the portfolio, what are other ways to get interviews with no experience? It's all about mastering the resume. So I have a video on my resume down in the, or not in the description, but on my YouTube channel. Just type in the word resume in my YouTube channel and you'll find it. And I think that is the best place to, or that's that's the best place you could start getting the most traction on your entire what you're doing on your application, your job search. I would say that the resume is probably where people are the weakest without actually knowing it. So I'd recommend there. Konstantinos. I was looking for a position where I could land SQL and Python maybe at the next job. Well, the good thing about Python is you should be able to use it just about anywhere. Also, Phoenix, but I'm putting you in a timeout because we don't take duplicate questions. So, Konstantinos, I was, what would you say? Completely lost my train of thought. Maybe less so SQL, but with Python, because it's a general purpose programming language, I think that you could easily apply that to a lot of different applications, even if they're not directly involved in what you're doing. So I would say don't discount the fact that you could totally use it in your job right now, even if they're not asking for it. KR7, it's not only Asia where you would need a master's degree. Europe is exactly the same without a master's degree. You're nowhere. Exemptions, UK or bachelor's is no. Yeah, I've heard the same thing about Europe too. There's this obsession with, and I call it an obsession with education because I've been in the industry for a couple of years. I mean, people with master's degrees aren't any smarter than people with bachelor's degrees for 80% of the jobs out there. There are certain jobs that I very much agree, yeah, this person, you need a higher level of education, but someone with a bachelor's degree that's the thing about data science, computer science, and a lot of these fields is these fields specifically are ones that are very friendly to learning on the internet, which is why I'm kind of again, I get it. If you want someone to work as a chemist at a biopharmaceutical company and they, you want them to have a master's degree, that I understand. You can't practice chemistry outside of a lab, so fine, they need to go to a university. But yeah, I would say it's Yeah, I think Europe and Asia are kind of weird about that, and even the U.S. to an extent, quite honestly. So, all right, got a couple of questions coming in. Oh, Watana Stan, here's a good question: is AI going to decrease data analyst jobs? Um, that's a tough one because the thing is, while I think it can, AI only works well when the data sets you use to train it are good. And the reason data analysts exist in a lot of organizations is that their data isn't very clean, and it isn't ready to do um, what it needs to do. So I think it will disrupt it in the future. The only problem I'm having is that again, data is too dirty at most companies for AI to drastically like disrupt it. But then again, you never want to bet against technology, quite honestly. Um, yeah, so that's a tough one. I would say, broadly speaking, the lower level data analyst positions will probably be disrupted, but as you get like higher up, you get into things that are harder and harder for AI to disrupt. So what I like to tell people, here's what I would tell you. The worry for you shouldn't be AI. It should be other humans right now, actually, because a lot of people have found that the data science is a excuse me, relatively low effort, high pay industry. And what I say by that, right? When I say that, I mean, for example, if you've ever talked to anyone that works in finance, people will work like 12-hour days. They get paid a lot of money, but they work 12-hour days. In software engineering and data science, I don't find that to be the norm at all. Big tech, except for maybe Amazon, like no one's working 12-hour days. I don't. I mean, even Amazon, I would say people probably aren't working 12-hour days. They're expected to put out really good work, but they're not working 12-hour days. So that's what I mean when I say like easy and lucrative. So people have figured that out, and so everyone kind of wants to become a data scientist or a software engineer right now. And luckily, there's and the thing is, like any industry, we only get paid what we do because of supply and demand. It's not because we're special. It's just there just happens to be a high demand and a low supply of candidates for these positions. So I say like any industries like this, where your lowest skilled, lowest experienced employees are down here, of which there are the most of, and then you go higher and higher up, and then you get higher skilled, higher experienced people at smaller and smaller levels. But I think with data science and analytics, you're going to start seeing it like expand like this, where the bottom tier is just going to be filled with low experience, low skilled candidates. Which everyone, I mean, to be clear, everyone is when they start. I was a low experience, low skilled candidate when I started. But because of that, the pay will go down quite significantly, which is why I would say your biggest fear should actually be other humans and doing your best to advance your career such that you're competing with fewer and fewer people as you go up. Because people always get stuck somewhere in their career, and you want to make sure you get to a point where you're not, competing with everyone else for your position. What's a common example of dirty data mistyped words? Okay, so a lot of machine learning algorithms don't work with data that has null values, for example. So that's one thing. Data where values aren't coded the right way. Data with, if you have like two, what do you call them? Like a string column, and it has trailing spaces in the front or back of it. Data stored in an inefficient format. I wouldn't call that dirty data, but that's something that needs to be handled in that step process. So I would say those are examples of dirty data. Usually the data is not in a position to where it can be analyzed readily. Banson Sai, hi Shashank, is Tableau or Power BI used more in the field? Depends on the company. I would say entirely depends on the company. You're probably at close to something like 50-50 in the US. I've only used Tableau my entire career, but I know Power BI is extremely common. So, Paula, welcome, welcome, welcome. If anyone remembers, I made Paula a moderator like 2 live streams ago because she does a great job moderating people. So, yes, everyone make sure to like the live stream. Thank you, thank you. Let's see, what else do we have? Ishan, what the most common mistakes you make while learning / working on data analysis? I would say joins done on the wrong keys. So when you do a join, right, you have to specify which columns you're going to join on. Especially in retail, you can have a lot of columns named the same way or named in very similar ways. And that can be one way to not get data in the way you expect it to exist. So I would say that's probably one of the most common mistakes I make. Arash Abu, how long does it take to get a master's degree? I think up to 2 years. Yeah, I think up to 2 years, but you could do it in 1 if you really wanted to, is my understanding. Hrithik Singh, how do you prepare for DA technical round? Go ahead and check out StrataScratch in the description below. They have a lot of questions you can check out. Usually, the company will tell you, hey, these are the things we'll be testing you out on, and you prepared that stuff. So, Phoenix Blade, for someone new, would you advise them on a career in data analyst or software engineering? I mean, it entirely depends on you, right? Between data analysts and software engineers, obviously software engineers get paid a lot more money. There are more jobs in software engineering, but at the end of the day, the work is very different between the two jobs. Like while you don't have to code as a data analyst, but you have to code as a software engineer, obviously. I would say, yeah, it really depends on you because they're so different, right? But I can tell you software engineering does pay more. There are more opportunities to be a software engineer, like more jobs available. And I would say if you like to create things, like if you find joy in creating things, then software engineering is probably better for you than data analysis. Because data analysts don't like create things from scratch that often, you know, that it's not part of the job description, I'd say. Whereas if you like analyzing data, then, you know. Swanky Sean, hi, do you think it's possible to use R or Python to extract data from PDF? Yes, it doesn't work very well though. But go look up like PDF Python libraries. It does work, it's just not very good. Shreyash S. Kumar, thanks to your SQL course, I got a job. Well, thank you so much. That's the whole point of this channel. We try and get people jobs. Mohammed El Ghanadi, hey buddy, what was your first day as a data analyst employee? How was? Pretty good. I mean, my first day was fairly simple. I was given all the tools that I needed, had to go to orientation, and I would say, yeah, and I would say, what else did I do on my first day? What else did I do on my first day? I got access to Alteryx and the other tools I needed to start my job. So usually it's just a lot of setup, and then they might go over something called a 30-60-90 plan, which is your plan for onboarding for your first 30 days, your first 60 days, and your first 90 days. If I were you, while you're onboarding to your job, take very detailed notes about what you liked and what you didn't like. That way, when you're more experienced, you can say, hey, I have some improvements we could probably make to the onboarding process, because I think a lot of companies, there are probably millions of dollars lost in slow onboarding processes, in that if you onboard someone very slowly, I mean, you know, then they can't get to work generating revenue for you. And people like to say, excuse me, for the first 6 months to a year, you're not getting the full value of your employee anyways. Obviously, depends on the job, depends on the employee, lots of stuff. But yeah, I would recommend definitely doing that. KR7, it's true that many jobs don't require a master's degree. However, education in Europe is pretty much free, even top rank. So it's, oh, okay. Yeah, that's fair. That is very, very fair. I completely forgot about that. So we pay an arm and a leg for education in the US. That's why, and I guess a benefit of that is that we require people to be less educated here than they do in Europe. That is a really, really good point. That's a really good point. Yeah, and KR7, and that's the point that you make that's very accurate. At the end of the day, the problem with not having a master's degree when applying to a data science position is less about what you know and more about and more about what everyone else has, because obviously any application process is very competitive. So that is a great insight. Thank you for pointing that out. Suyash Gupta. In the United States, becoming a master or getting a master's degree should not be necessary for data analysts. I've seen data analysts with master's degrees, and I'm a little bit surprised because I fundamentally do not think it's necessary for the job. Surya Pusapati, do you have any suggestions for books on data science? The one I always recommend is Storytelling with Data. Practical Statistics for Data Scientists is also a really good one. And yeah. Funny SKBD, tell us where we get internships. So internships, at least in the United States, the most effective way to get them is around the month of, I believe, like March or something, like January through March. Go to any company's website and they'll have all their internships, like their summer internships posted and ready to go. So I would recommend that's the most effective way to get an internship, since that was the question. Kumar Gaurav, I've started my prep for a data analyst job. You're one of my mentors. Well, thank you. Phoenix Blade, how many data analysts usually work at a company? That's a tough one. I would say you probably have. Depends on the size of the company, quite honestly, right? So maybe I would say maybe like 3 per director or something. No, you have more. Yeah, no, that's a tough question. Yeah, I don't know. That's really difficult to answer. Yeah, no, I actually have no idea. Don Wack, how important is domain knowledge, especially at the beginning for entry? For the beginning, I would say not very important at all. I would say as you start to become more experienced, and domain knowledge becomes more important, but not initially. AN75, hey, when applying for jobs and you get asked how much you are earning, do you lie or tell the truth? If you lie, then how much extra do you add? So you don't have to answer that question. In the U.S., first of all, I don't even think it's legal to force someone to answer to that question. At least in California, I'm pretty sure you can't legally ask someone that. Yeah, I think it's a state by state thing. I'm pretty sure in California you can't even ask that question. But I would say just say I'm not comfortable disclosing that information. What are your salary bands? You don't have to answer that question. Yeah. And I don't think you're ever at a huge advantage answering that question, because if you give a high number, like if you're being paid a lot right now, then there's not much incentive to leaving. I think the only way that can work is if you are. I think the only way that would be useful is if you really hate your job, but they pay you well, and then you're trying to find something else. You're like, hey, this is what I get paid right now. I need to see at least 30% on top of that. So I just wouldn't answer the question. I'd be like, sorry, I don't feel comfortable disclosing that information. I don't think you're at any advantage to telling people how much you make right now. And general job hunting tips: when you are looking to move from one data analyst to another data analyst position, what questions do you ask at the end of the interview? What's your tech stack like? What are your biggest problems right now? How clean would you say the data is? What databases do you guys use? Stuff like that. Zoranthus, asking about your current pay is legal in all states. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought you weren't even allowed to ask about people's current pay, because again, it's not relevant. At the end of the day, if they pass the interview, that they should be paid whatever you're paying for that job. Yeah, and Paolo's picks is correct. So she says what they have budgeted, salary range. Yeah. I always ask for the range that they have. Oh, okay. I mean, I would assume it's not legal in the UK either, because the UK has more progressive labor laws than the US does in general. But I mean, again, it's a different country, right? Um, yeah. So I would, yeah. That's a. It's not a question I would answer. Long story short, I think you have no obligation to answer it. All right. guys, give me 1 second. I have a meeting I might have to attend right now. Let me see if I need to. I might not need to, though. Give me 1 minute, guys. I just need to check and see if I need to go into the meeting. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Small distraction. You guys can still hear me, right? Pramod Kumar, could you tell me if there will be any case study rounds for data analyst jobs? I haven't encountered that many. So the data analyst interview process is not like standardized in any way. So yes, there totally could be. I would recommend studying up for that. Okay, 1 second, guys. Be right back. So funny story. Yesterday, I started a small kitchen fire on accident because I was cooking a sausage, and so like what happens? So I'm a bit of a cheap guy, quite honestly, and so I bought the smallest pan I could to cook everything because I'm like, oh, I'll save money over here. But then I found out that like by doing that, right, and if you use a lot of oil inside it, the oil, and I have a gas stove. Unfortunately, I hate gas stoves, but I have a gas stove. Unfortunately, if you have a gas stove in a really small pan with a lot of oil inside it, the oil can fall out and light everything on fire. So I'm going to be buying a bigger pan because I don't want to burn down my entire building. But that was incredibly scary. So happened last night. Just wanted to tell you guys about it. Danny D, I failed a technical interview 2 days ago. RIP. I'm sorry, man. Well, the good thing about a technical interview, at least you know how to practice for it. Okay, what else do we have? Kabbalah Yuri, do you need machine learning to be a data analyst? No, I would say a basic knowledge of the structure of a machine learning algorithm is useful, but not what I would call necessary, even in the slightest. Banson Sai, surprisingly, we've been getting interviews even with only SQL and Excel skills. Your videos have been helpful. Awesome, awesome. Vibov, what's the best source to go about learning A/B case test scenarios? A/B testing case-based scenarios. I actually don't know. I'm not really aware of any channels for that. Adventures in Data and Cooking. That's funny. EYNLLIB. Is it viable to get a job in data analytics having only completed the Google certificate with extra SQL certificate? It's going to be hard, but it is possible, but it will be hard is what I would say. Sharmila Parwani. What is the start salary for a data analyst or scientist job? I know ranges from state to state. I'm in New York, but an approximate range. Okay, so data analysts and data scientists get paid very, very different salaries. Something to remember. A starting salary, I would say, in Washington State, in Seattle, right? And the Seattle market doesn't pay quite as much as New York, but we're not too far off, unfortunately, because high pay also means high everything cost. My first job as a data analyst, I got paid $55,000 in Dallas, Texas. That was 3 to 4 years ago. Then I moved up to $83K. Then I moved into the six figures, which is where I'm currently at now. So I would say for an entry-level job, New York State or New York City, because those would be very different, presumably. I would say 70K plus, probably 70K plus is what I'd be expecting. Levels.fyi usually is a good place to look, but I would say you should probably be paid 70K plus for a data analyst position and like 90 plus for a data scientist. So, all right, guys. So it looks like I have to head out. Thank you so much for your time.